What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Critical Overlord here. So in this video we have some news on Insidious. Yes, the Insidious franchise is going to be returning to the big screen in the year 2022. We're going to be getting the 5th entry in this franchise that's been going on since 2010. If you're a fan of this franchise, then you know that it was brought to us by James Wan and Leigh Whannell, who have brought us films like Saw. They've brought us I believe the most recent project they worked on was The Conjuring. If it wasn't, correct me down in the comment section. But anyway, during Blumfest, where we got that Halloween Kills teaser, we learned that Insidious Chapter 5 would be coming out in the year 2022. We also got a few early tidbits about the cast, the direction it's going, and we found out who the director would be, because it doesn't seem that James Wan or Leigh Whannell are going to be the director at all. Of course, now knowing who the director is, this is pretty exciting, and I actually can't wait to see how this new entry in the franchise turns out, because the last two have been prequels. They've been prequel films, so it's nice to see that this one is actually going to be a straight sequel. So with Insidious 5, we're actually going to be getting Patrick Wilson back in his role. We're going to be bringing back the Lambert family. Patrick Wilson will be starting in as Josh Lambert. Here's some information about Insidious Chapter 5. Insidious Chapter 5 is actually going to pick up with the Lambert family 10 years after the last movie, as Dalton is going to begin college. So it's going to be a direct sequel to Insidious Chapter 2. Patrick Wilson will star alongside Ty Simpkins, who again played Dalton in the first two films, and they're going to be the returning two cast members from the original two films, from the Lambert family. So he had this to say about it. He's honored and thrilled to be at the helm of the next Insidious installment, which will provide an amazing chance to unpack everything the Lamberts went through a decade ago, as well as deal with the consequences of their choices. Directing the movie is both professionally and personally a full circle moment for me, and I am extremely grateful to be entrusted in continuing to tell this frightening and haunting story into the further we go. Now, the first two Insidious movies, I believe Leigh Whannell wrote those first two films, and then James Wan, he was the one behind the camera directing it, giving us all of those intense moments that we all are very familiar with those first two films. The first one is the one that I believe everyone is going to say is hands down the best entry. The second one is the second best, and then you go down the line after that. They increasingly get worse. The third one is the third best. Some might even put 4 ahead of 3, but ultimately this franchise was just one of the biggest, or I'll say this universe in a way, because it's not, I won't say it was like one of the biggest franchises from the 2010s. Actually, yes it was. Insidious was one of the biggest franchises from the 2010s. That whole narrative with the Lamberts, everyone really connected with them, and then we kind of left them alone, and it turned into this franchise. It seemed like the franchise was starting to be more about Lin Shaye's character, at least. It seemed like that's the direction they were going in, because the third one was a prequel to the first two films, and then the fourth film was a prequel to that third film. It was just like everything was it was becoming to be a mess with prequels. So it's nice to see that the 5th film will be bringing back the Lamberts. We're getting Josh and Dalton back. We have no word on Rose Byrne, though. I noticed that during this announcement, Rose Byrne was not mentioned, whether she would be portraying her character Lorraine. So I can't wait to actually see if in fact she comes back. Elise honestly became the focal character of the franchise for the third and the fourth film, because the fourth film, actually, we ended up finding some tidbits about Elise's childhood. Like, the narrative started switching off being about Elise and her friends, her co-workers, her sidekicks, essentially, Specs and Tucker. And one other interesting thing about this is how, while I'm excited that Insidious 5 is introducing the Lambert family again, and we're going to be connecting with Dalton 10 years after the events of the first two films, we still are not getting a film that's picking up where Insidious Chapter 2 left off. Insidious Chapter 2 teased that we could be getting another entry with the red-faced lipstick demon again, and it seems like that's what was behind that girl at the end in the wheelchair, because if you recall, we ended up leaving the Lamberts, got a knock on the door, 2 adults answered it, a little girl appeared from behind them. That actually, I did some research. That actually was Jenna Ortega, who is going to be in the upcoming Scream 5, appeared behind them, or emerged from behind them. And then Elise, who had died, because Elise has been dead since the first movie, but she's been in all of the films. She went inside the house, and then she was talking to the girl in the wheelchair, Allison. Allison had like some crackling noises behind her. She looks up, gives this look of shock and awe, and it's just the familiar noises we have come to know of that red lipstick face demon. Then the screen just faded to black, and we got that that famous loud screeching noise, loud opening sequence that you saw at the beginning of this video that Insidious is known for. So we still are not getting that film. It's like Insidious honestly is in a Jeepers Creepers position in my honest case, because they had something so intriguing there at the end of part 2 that many people, including myself, couldn't wait to see a follow-up for, and we've gotten nothing but prequels. And now we're going back to the Lambert family, and it's like, well, why? It's just like, what happened along the way? Like, it's clear that this was not the plan all along, because I feel like somewhere along the line, that ending from chapter 2 needs to be addressed. We need to have a film about that family. We need to have a film about them. I'm glad the Lamberts are coming back. I can't wait to see what Dalton has been up to for the past 10 years and how his life has been affected, and also can't wait to see how they find themselves back into the further and how this will look on a college campus. That's going to be pretty exciting. But I am still someone who is very much interested in knowing what happened at the end of part 2, and I want a film about that family, because you left the Lamberts. We were done with the Lamberts. Now we're going back to them. So honestly, I'm glad, but at the same time, I'm kind of bothered because we're not getting that sequel that I personally want, and that's the sequel where we're dealing with Allison, the girl in the wheelchair, from the end of the second film, and her family. And what demon was that behind her? Because honestly, it was just one of the things that bothers me about this franchise is how we still have nothing to do with this ending from part 2 in any film. So many years later, still have nothing. But I'm glad we're going back to the Lamberts, because I know a lot of people, they did not like the third or the fourth film. The third and the fourth film were the lackluster entries. The third film, though, in my honest opinion, was a step above the fourth. The fourth one was just way too much about Elise for me. Way too much about Elise. Nothing wrong with Lynn Shay. The character of Elise is a loved character. Lynn Shay brings her to life wonderfully. But the fourth film for me just was too much about Elise. I ended up giving the film a positive review still, just because there's so many redeeming qualities about this film, about these films, that overlook the cons. And a lot of the cons in the third and the fourth film came from the narrative choices, and honestly some of the creature designs that we ended up getting in them as well. But the acting in all of the films has never been anything less of adequate, or even, I'll say, not Oscar worthy, but they've all been good or adequate at best. I've never seen any person in this franchise give a bad performance. So the Insidious films have always had some sort of redeeming qualities when it comes to that. Hopefully, Rose Byrne returns in Insidious 5. Can't wait to see what happens. Can't wait to see what exactly is going to go down, because we know that Scott Teems is penning the script for this upcoming Insidious Chapter 5 film. He's the one that's penning the script. Now, that name sounds familiar to you. It sounded familiar to me as well when I looked it up. Scott Teems is the one who has also worked on Halloween Kills. So, can't wait to see what happens there, because Insidious Chapter 5 isn't coming out till 2022. So we'll get a chance to see what Scott Teems has to offer when we see Halloween Kills next year, and possibly that'll let us know what we should expect or can expect out of him for Insidious Chapter 5 in small ways. But let me know what you guys think about all this down in the comment section below. Also, the fact that this is Patrick Wilson's directional debut, that's got to be something that's very, not only he seems very excited about it, but I know he's got to be at least intimidated a bit by it. But I'm sure he'll knock it out of the park. He's worked on projects with Lee Whannell and James Wan, so I have no doubt that he can produce a quality horror film in the director's position. Also, he's going to be starring in it again, portraying the role of Josh Lambert once again, so I can't wait to see how that all plays out. I'm excited for Insidious Chapter 5, just kind of a little bit bothered by the fact that it's still not a sequel to what happened at the end of Part 2. But let me know what you guys think about all this down in the comment section below. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe and turn on post notifications so that you never miss a video. In the description, I have links to my social media accounts, my Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can message me there, of course, to let me know if there's any movies, news, or reviews you would like me to cover in the future. And of course, with all that in mind, guys, I will see you in the next video.